1951, the book launched Buckley's career as a conservative polemicist, set off a critical maelstrom, and unexpectedly made its way to the New York Times bestseller list. The work of a conservative muckraker, Buckley aimed to illuminate the corrupted state of American higher education by recounting his experiences as a recent Yale undergraduate. In addition, he attempted to undermine academic freedom's philosophical underpinnings by suggesting that the communities that sponsor colleges and universities ought to determine their educational content rather than the professors. The conspiratorial critique of higher education influenced Buckley while he wrote God and Man at Yale. During his research for the book, he studied Alan Zoll's tracts, How Red Are the Schools, Reducators at Yale University, and articles in Crane's Red-Baiting Educational Reviewer. Echoing conspiratorial hyperbole, in God and Man at Yale, Buckley claimed that John Maynard Keynes shared much in common with Karl Marx, and that John Dewey's pragmatic philosophy opened the door for Hitler to come to power. However, unlike the conspiratorial writers who claimed Soviet sympathizers controlled academia, Buckley admitted that communism posed little threat on campus. While he spent a good deal of the book exposing what he believed were the contemporary academic biases against religion in the free market, he never blamed them on a communist plot, even though he insisted they benefited the Soviet Union. Instead, socialism and atheism simply represented the nature of contemporary liberalism. For all of Buckley's exaggerations, his assertions appeared to have more surface plausibility than the conspiratorial account put forth by Root and Whitmer. For Buckley, true academic liberty defended communal interests. Quote, for in the last analysis, academic freedom must mean the freedom of men and women to supervise the educational activities and aims of the schools they oversee and support. This faith in the redemptive power of the public differed from the pessimism that characterized the conspiratorial activists. It also put Buckley apart from libertarian elitists such as Albert J. Nock, who had little hope for the mob, and Whittaker Chambers, who feared that Americans were too far along the path of materialism to defeat communism. While cultivating an image of high culture sophistication, in God and Man at Yale, Buckley denigrated professional expertise in favor of a majoritarianism, which echoed the arguments put forth by William Jennings Bryan at the Scopes trial in 1925. Urbane, wealthy, and sophisticated to the point of caricature, Buckley famously confessed that he should sooner live in a society governed by the first 2,000 names in the Boston Telephone Directory than a society governed by the 2,000 faculty members of Harvard University. Convinced that the great majority of Yale's financial backers believed in the Gospels and the free market, he called on the school to fire its many professors who did not promote Christ and capitalism in the classroom. Buckley's good friend and a major figure in the history of post-war conservatism, Russell Kirk, held very different views on academic freedom. In 1955, Kirk published Academic Freedom, an Essay and Definition, which directly challenged God and Man at Yale's central arguments. No stranger to higher education, Kirk taught for 4 years at Michigan State University before resigning to become a full-time writer in 1953. Unlike Whitmer, who retired from his position in New Jersey because he felt discriminated against as a conservative, Kirk left Michigan State because he believed the university was focusing too much on sports and architectural expansion at the expense of academic excellence. I think some of us can relate to. In his frequent attacks on college presidents, academic bureaucratization, and the anti-intellectualism of American universities, Kirk's critique of higher education echoed earlier writers such as Thorstein Veblen and Upton Sinclair. According to Kirk, academic freedom was the principle designed to protect the teacher from hazards that to prevent him from meeting his obligations in pursuit of truth. Like the American Association of University Professors, Kirk believed that academic freedom existed as a special privilege reserved to a professional class because of their training and expertise as judged by their peers. He claimed to differ with the AAUP in considering academic freedom a natural right, placing it above man-made laws. Disdaining educational utilitarianism, Kirk regarded the medieval university romantically as a place where scholars commanded so much respect that, quote, the community did not expect to be served, except in the sense that it might be so fortunate as to gather some crumbs from the academic table. Kirk's elitism makes his objections to the quasi-populism of God and Man at Yale understandable. Buckley's majoritarian definition of academic freedom ran counter to Kirk's defense of a scholarly caste protected from the whims of the mob. While sympathetic to many of Buckley's values, Kirk nonetheless chided him for indoctrinating things as they are. He dismissed the idea that outsiders, whether parents, alumni, or trustees, were more qualified to run classes than professors. If one were to focus only on Kirk's stinging critique of Buckley, one would not get a good sense of his educational thought, because the bulk of his work did not defend embattled campus leftists, but instead attacked them. This is because he believed that liberalism posed more of a threat to academic freedom than did McCarthyism. Liberal promotion of big government, mass higher education, and philosophical pragmatism, he believed, acted as stronger yet more insidious dangers. Kirk claimed that since liberals justified their mission in terms of the public good and relativized moral truth, including academic freedom itself, they undermined the only legs professional autonomy could stand on. He also believed that educational traditionalists, such as himself, were more often the victims of academic freedom violations than were liberals or leftists. Kirk also supported the McCarthy-era's purges of academic communists. He attacked Commager as a representative liberal, naive and ignorant of the fact that congressional representatives deserve more respect than communist academics. For Kirk, there was little question that pleading the Fifth Amendment or membership in the Communist Party constituted grounds for dismissal. While Kirk admitted that only a small number of communist professors taught in the United States, he drew ominous parallels with the small vanguard of Soviet revolutionaries that eventually overthrew the Tsar. Kirk's support for much of Senator McCarthy's educational program reminds us that for all their differences, conspiratorial, communitarian, and elitist educational critiques shared a number of commonalities. Even though they had often taught in universities, they considered themselves intellectual outsiders, struggling against the liberal academic and political establishment. They vigorously denounced philosophical pragmatism, which they believed led to moral paralysis and totalitarianism. In addition, they believed that government should have little involvement in the economy or the academy, except in the notable cases of national security, which justified congressional hearings into academic subversion.